had a great time chatting when we first connected at the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Were we in Kansas City? I think we were in Kansas City. Honor and a privilege. Paige Cognetti. Now we're going to get to our Pennsylvania counterparts. Paige Cognetti serves as the 36th mayor of Scranton, Pennsylvania. The President Biden and our Youth Senior Center. Casey was here, he would say go Scranton, so give Scranton a round of applause. And do I say?
It's like work.
Turk.
Yeah.
All right. Matt is the 43rd mayor of Allentown, PA. He's been there since 2022, and he's on a member of the U.S. Conference of Mayors Advisory Board, and we want to thank you for being with us here in Pennsylvania. Give Mayor a round of applause, please. Now, to our fellow mayors, I want you to know in everything that we do, we always start with our hometown leaders. Right now, we are in the district of Council Member Curtis Jones. We call him Mr. 4th District. Give it up for Council Member Curtis Jones. Now, I hope you also noticed that I'm the baby of the bunch of all of these mayors. They are much more experienced and they have been at this long before I arrived. But one of the things I was so fortunate to experience during my first interaction with the U.S. Conference of Mayors is they too have a commitment to housing and recognize the challenge that we're facing across the nation and thus feel our pain here in the city of Philadelphia. And so we are here now touring our great city of Philadelphia to explore some of the solutions that we've proffered in addressing issues associated with housing. And I want you to know we are proud to communicate not just our need, but our promise to create 30,000 units of housing here in the city of Philadelphia by the building of new and the preservation of existing. This would lead to the overall improvement here in Philadelphia by stabilizing our neighborhoods, reconnecting communities, developing new to welcome additional opportunities, and to impact the affordable space as much as we possibly can. Now, that primary goal is made up of building and preserving existing home ownership and rental opportunities at both affordable and market rate levels, which is why the private sector, government can't do this alone. So one of the things that we are happy to showcase where we've been sort of above the curve is that our effort, the Turn the Key program, has literally helped working Philadelphians to buy homes who would otherwise still be trying to just figure out how to save for their down payment and or to just make a mortgage payment. And tax credit projects for allowing for affordable and senior rental opportunities. I know if our Chairman Vincent Hughes, the Democratic chairman of the Appropriations Committee in the Pennsylvania Senate, and Morgan Cephas, chair of our Philadelphia delegation of the House. We depend on them for those LIHTC tax credits that we use. And those programs are more important than ever because as costs continue to rise, we need to save and incentivize not just government, but again, the private sector as well for getting this done. I want you to know that I made our guests aware of the fact that Councilmember Jones, they were going to hear a heart-wrenching story as we came here to Bris Shalom about this affordable housing apartment complex for seniors, which was allowed to fall into horrible, horrible disrepair by its previous for-profit owners. Last month, right here in this very room, joined by our State Senator Vincent Hughes, Councilmember Curtis Jones, and various departments in the Parker administration, Law Department, Finance Department, and Licenses and Inspections, and Planning and Development, and the Water Department, and the great teams associated with the Public Interest Law Center, Senior Law Center, working with the greatest housing authority in the nation, led by Kelvin Jeremiah. He could not be here with us on today. We were able to all work together and develop an arrangement that allowed the Philadelphia Housing Authority to take control of this property. This is what the deal included: a city commitment providing at least 50%, up to $8 million for the rehabilitation costs here. Utility forgiveness of 50% of the previous owner's debt to the property, and relief valued at about $700,000. A commitment to foregoing any city debt on the property, including but not limited to any fees, fines, levies, liens, and/or taxes that are owed. And this one was extremely important, a commitment to working in partnership with PHA to pursue and secure funding from other sources, including the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, to ensure that the project is fully financed, and that includes that 4% low-income housing tax credit, we refer to it as LIHTC, financing for the redevelopment of the site. Now, the deal was essential to assuring that we could, in essence, rescue Brit Shalom for the Philadelphians who are here. But for us, it's an example of government not working in silos. The nonprofit agencies that were around, the private sector, contractors are going to have to come in and actually do the work. So that's job creation and workforce development. And so that's why I'm happy to come here today with the U.S. Conference of Mayors so that we could share our story about what we're doing here locally, and it doesn't happen without partnerships. We share best practices. All of our mayors, we learn from each other, and I've loved it when they've shared their experiences and they've said, these are some red flags. You're a new mayor, Sherelle Parker. We can tell you while you're working on housing, make sure you don't do X, Y, and Z. So I thank each of you for giving me the benefit of learning from your experience. Next, I want to say this so that we're really clear. We've been unapologetic about announcing that we are firmly committed to delivering change that residents can see, touch, and feel. And when we think about housing and that 30,000 unit sort of commitment, this is about putting people on the path to self-sufficiency. So we have first-time home ownership programs for income-qualified, middle-income individuals. And Councilmember Jones, they've already saw Restore, Repair, Renew in action. And they also saw Turn the Key in action. So they've tangibly or visually had the ability to see those programs. Housing counseling here in the city of Philadelphia. Another thing that we and Councilmember Squilla advocated strongly for is our Philly First Home program. This gives a down payment and closing cost assistance to first-time home buyers in the city of Philadelphia, and our Turn the Key program so that we can develop more affordable housing. We talked earlier about things like our basic systems home repair. That's a staple that's been around in the city of Philadelphia for a very long time, that gives free emergency repairs like to fix a roof or major home repair systems, carpentry that needs to be done, and/or electrical work. Then we have our Utility Emergency Services Fund. That's the UESF funding that helps us with low-income individuals and families who simply need help paying their utility bills. And this final one here, that's extremely important. Now, mayors, I don't know if this has been a thing in your area, but we have known that this was a challenge, but Pew, through some research, affirmed for us how much Philadelphia was being negatively impacted by what we describe as our tangled title crisis. here. And we developed a program. Councilwoman Catherine Gilmore Richardson, who is the majority leader in the City Council of Philadelphia, this was definitely something she, along with Records, they led in this area to help us provide free legal assistance for homeowners who have been living in a property that has been in their family, but unfortunately, there was no lawyer on retainer to give them a will, develop a will, so that they could legally transfer ownership to the property. So imagine living in a home that needs repair, you're paying the bills, but you don't have legal title to the deed, thus you are not eligible to participate in many of the programs you just heard me mention. So I'm proud of what we are doing there. In essence, our average loan amount in the city of Philadelphia, $39,000. This monthly payment of $410 for this program that we just witnessed, that Restore, Repair, Renew. Our average borrower income is only $60,000. We just saw it in real time. A Restore, Repair, Renew program recipient, and she was at 71% of the AMI, and the delinquency rate for our program has only been 3%. So when you're trying to see whether or measure whether or not a program is successful, we need quantifiable data, not whether or not we just like it, but what does the demographic look like for the people that have participated. 75% of our Restore, Repair, Renew borrowers who completed repairs on their report improvement, this is what they say: my social and emotional and mental health has improved as a result of having this housing and ownership. They talk about 63% of them who completed their repairs. They talked about something we don't normally measure. And we saw that, remember we went outside and we looked at the backyard and we intentionally saw areas for families and friends to gather. They talked about the improved relationships between their family members and their friends. So this is a well-rounded approach that requires calculated attention to a host of details and policies and systems to create the type of housing that you just heard me reference. So again, to all of my colleagues with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, thank you for leading municipal efforts related to housing and supporting the unhoused populations. I am proud to stand with you today because when all of these mayors come, Philadelphia, this is what I want you to know. Your mayor is not a lone wolf howling in the wind. President Ginther, I say the U.S. Conference of Mayors is with us right now. Our president is here, and we are going to continue sounding the alarm to raise awareness about the need for housing, affordable market rate, but to ensure that American dream is still available to all Americans. And now I want to turn the microphone over to our president, Mayor Ginther.
Wow, I know Philadelphia has already seen what a powerhouse Mayor Parker is and chose her as your newly elected leader. But I tell you, the rest of America is finding out the power, the advocacy, the determination, the grit, the vision of this mayor. And we're so thrilled to be in Philadelphia today. My name is Andy Ginther. I'm the mayor of Columbus, Ohio, and president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and so grateful for Mayor Parker and her team showing us some of the great things that are happening here in Philadelphia. This is part of a tour that we're doing in different parts around the country to focus on housing. We have been to Phoenix earlier this week. Today we're in Philadelphia. Next Tuesday we will be in Detroit. And our focus is very clear. There are many issues facing great American cities all over this country. Housing is not an issue, it is the issue. Regardless of where you go in America, housing is by far the #1 issue facing great American cities. And we know this isn't just an issue of doing the right thing to make sure that folks have an affordable, safe place to live and raise their families. This is an economic development issue. This is an issue of a way for us to fight homelessness in our communities. If you want to reduce homelessness, grow your economy, grow your community, we must deal with the supply crisis in housing in America. We know that's the one way where the public and private sector can work together to do this work. We know this issue is affecting everyone. The cost to rent or own a home is painfully high. And as a nation, we're falling short in response. Rising rents are a function of a failure to build affordable housing, as well as a historic lack of federal investment that spans 4 decades. The bottom line is this: we need more housing, and we need more units that are affordable for low and middle income families. And as you all may know, we have an election coming up. I don't need to tell the people of Pennsylvania that. No matter who wins the U.S. Conference of Mayors, one of the last bastions of bipartisanship in America, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, all working together to put the people of our communities and cities first. Regardless of who wins this election, we will be leading a charge, a coalition, demanding historic new federal housing legislation that spurs investment in low and middle income housing, market rate, all of the above. We have a supply crisis in this country, and we need the federal government to step up. We need to build upon the bipartisan support for the American Rescue Plan, the bipartisan infrastructure law, the CHIPS and Science Act. We know we can do big things as a country, but we need the federal government to step up and meet our mayors and our governors and our local leaders in this housing effort. We need more support for LIHTC, CDBG, but we also need to fund innovation and disruption. And we need money from the federal government to come directly to cities so that these mayors can make it happen. There's an old saying around the U.S. Conference of Mayors: if you want something to happen, get with mayors, provide the resources and the partnership, and mayors will always get it done. So I am so proud to be with you here today. Mayor Parker, thank you for the incredible work you're doing in Philadelphia. She has been an incredible force already within the conference and has rightfully claimed back Philadelphia's space amongst great American cities. A woman with vision, with passion, and someone who is going to help us get this done is the top priority in the first 100 days of the next administration in Congress. So it's my honor to introduce a great advocate, someone who knows how to work with folks from all walks of life, from all parts of the country. He's our Vice President of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, Oklahoma City Mayor David Holt.
Well, thank you, Mayor Ginther, for your leadership. For people who don't know, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, obviously, as you heard just from Tom Cochran's tenure as CEO, has a really long history in this country, a century of history. And we get a lot of things done in our communities, but we also get a lot of things done collectively and in Washington. But we don't do it without leadership. Each year we have a president, and this year that is Mayor Ginther of Columbus, and he has really, he has done such a terrific job of bringing us together, especially around this issue that he aptly described as the issue of our time, which is housing. And that's why we're here. That's why he's going to so many important cities across the United States in this campaign season to highlight that and make sure that that issue rises to the top, regardless of who wins on November 5th. So thank you for your leadership, Mayor Ginther. And thank you for hosting us, Mayor Parker. You have been an absolute joy to work with already just in this first year. You're a terrific addition to the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and I knew we'd be fast friends because for a couple of reasons. One, I know you're big on One Philadelphia. I get my one up, right? Yeah. I wear on my lapel pin every day, One OKC. So, you know, it's a good ethos to govern by. The second reason is I got married in Philadelphia 21 years ago to a Philly girl. You know, my wife's uncle is Vito Canuso, the longtime chairman of the Philadelphia Republican Party. So Vito and Sarah Canuso wanted me to give you their best. Philly's like a second home. There used to be a really good Chinese restaurant just down the street from this building right here. And so I love to see it, and I love to see how you're leading it and what you're doing for the great people of Philadelphia. But I think I just mentioned the Republican Party. Maybe that's a segue to what I want to say. I'm a registered Republican. In many cities, we try to look past party, and absolutely at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, we do. We work together, but when we enter Washington, it seems like everybody's got to have that R or D after their name. And it seems like too often issues have an R or D after them as well. And this issue has got to be bipartisan. And you see on this stage, Republican and Democratic mayors standing together. And regardless of who wins this election, that's the fundamental point, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat in the White House, whether it's Republicans or Democrats who control the House and the Senate, we have got to have housing as a top priority. And so I'm here to tell you that Republican mayors and communities that elect Republicans care just as much about this issue and absolutely want to work on it together in Washington. And when we work in a bipartisan way in Washington, as mayors have often nudged Congress and the administration to do, we get things done. And this conference was sitting on the front row when the bipartisan infrastructure law was signed on the South Lawn of the White House, because we put up a bipartisan front on that issue of infrastructure, and we will absolutely continue to do that in the future, and especially on this issue of housing. So Republican, Democratic mayors across the country, from red states and blue states, red cities and blue cities, all stand together on this issue, and we will beyond November 5th. So thank you for giving us a chance to highlight it, and it is now my honor to welcome to the podium my friend, your neighbor, the mayor of Scranton, PA, Paige Cognetti.
Thanks, David. Yeah, when it comes to local, politics just really doesn't matter that much, right? We're in silly season. We're 10 days out. It's Pennsylvania. It's so intense. I was doing something by the side of the road the other day. I happen to be a Democrat and a strong supporter of Kamala Harris for president. But a man with a whole pack of Trump signs in his truck rolled up and said, "Mayor, is that you? How are you doing? You're doing such a great job. Keep it up." That's local government. It's the party. It doesn't matter, right? I'm cleaning up the streets. We've got infrastructure going. There's scaffolding around City Hall. There's bridges being done and roads being done, and we're funding nonprofits. It's local. It doesn't matter if it's D or R. When it comes to our local officials, party doesn't matter, and that's what I love so much about the Conference of Mayors and why it's great to be here today. And when it comes to housing, we know that we need more housing. We need it all across the country. When you talk to mayors across, there is no mayor you will talk to that will not say housing is an issue. We know that we need roughly 4 million units of housing across this country. And so in each of our cities, like in Scranton, we've got to make sure that we're doing our best to get that going. But building new housing or rehabbing old housing looks different in Scranton than it might in Columbus or Allentown or Philly or Oklahoma City. Scranton has, different from the row homes that we've been seeing in Philly today, we have small, narrow parcels, very, very tall, but there's space in between, and there's so many steps, and there's a lot of steps that go up into those units. I was with an older woman yesterday, and she's trying to get into her house every day. Just to get up to her porch is a challenge, and then she's got to get up more steps to get into her unit. It's not fair to her to try to age in place in that home. So we need more senior housing in Scranton. We need more housing for bigger families. I've got a person that works in the city. Her sister's moving in. They have, I think, 5 kids together. They want to have a blended home. They're trying to find something that's big enough. So we know that it's not one size fits all for any generation or any type of family. We know that it's not one size fits all for our cities. So that's why it's direct funding from the federal government through, whether it's an innovation fund, CDBG, any of those sorts of programs. Us mayors are going to continue to fight for those, regardless of who is in the White House come January, because we need that flexibility when it comes to making our own housing plans. Right, welcome all of you to come up to Scranton and visit. It's beautiful this time of year. And Mayor Parker, thank you so much for having us in Philly. And with that, I'll introduce Matt Turk, the mayor of Allentown, PA.
Muchísimas gracias, Paige. It's so great to be back in Philadelphia. This is where I moved as soon as I graduated from high school. I came to Philadelphia. came right back here as soon as I had an opportunity to right after college. And when my wife and I moved to Allentown 20 years ago, the intent was to come to Philadelphia after we were done with Allentown. But Allentown has a way of working on your heart and keeping you there. And I'm Matt Turek. I'm the proud mayor of the city of Allentown, Pennsylvania. You might have heard us in the news recently. We seem to be the center of attention for Pennsylvania and for the nation as we think about what's going to happen on November 5th. And you might have heard me on the radio recently talking about sort of refuting the idea that all politics are local. What I said recently is that all politics seems to be housing. And everything we talk about in cities is related to housing and meeting the needs here. Allentown's the beating heart of the Lehigh Valley, which is the third largest region in Pennsylvania, and it's the fastest growing region in Pennsylvania. And a lot of the growth in Allentown and the growth in the Lehigh Valley has been driven by families who are looking to tap into that American dream. So a lot of the people that we have welcomed to Allentown over the past 20 years, Allentown's grown about 20% in those 20 years. Those are folks who are coming from places like the Bronx, places like Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic, places like recently Afghanistan and Syria, who are looking for an opportunity to connect to that American opportunity. And they've come to Allentown largely because it was affordable. It was a place where you could tap into a growing economy, but also afford to take some of the wealth that you might have built in other environments and turn it into real estate. But that's worked for 20 years, and it's helped propel the growth of Allentown and the Lehigh Valley. But more recently, in fact, last year, Allentown was at the top of the list. And usually, we mayors like to see our cities at the top of the list. But Allentown was at the top of the list for places that have seen the greatest decrease in affordability in housing. And that is not the list that I want to be on. Allentown's housing prices rose by nearly 11%, which was, again, one of the top among the 100 largest metros in the United States. So we know we have to do things to increase supply. The way that we're going to make housing in a place like Allentown, Philadelphia, Oklahoma City, Columbus, or Scranton more affordable, in fact, across the country, is to build more housing. And what we've done in Allentown is what everybody does in cities. We innovate, we get creative. We do the things that we need to do to facilitate the construction of more housing. In Allentown and places like Scranton, that's meant amending our zoning codes to create an environment that is more conducive to building new housing. We're focused on making sure that the city continues to look the way it does. It looks a lot like some of the places that we saw in Philadelphia, tight row homes, but in a way that allows for greater levels of density. We want to be able to build more densely in a city like Allentown. So we're tweaking our zoning code. We are trying to get creative about some other things that we can do to facilitate the development of more housing. But we're also taking trips like this and seeing some of the amazing things that Mayor Parker's been doing here in Philadelphia to facilitate more new single-family homes, more affordable units, more of all types of housing. So we're looking around and we're seeking to innovate. Before I was the mayor of Allentown, I worked for 12 years in economic development. And economic development is driven by dependable environments, dependable regulatory environments. We see development when we know what we can count on. And it is also driven by real estate development. So I work closely with real estate developers who give me an idea of what you need to do. And you need to be innovative and creative and dependable when you build local regulations, but you also need to create capital injections. And this is where we are right now. And I was so happy to hear Mayor Ginther talk about how important housing is to economic development. Places like Allentown do not grow if we cannot grow our housing base and allow people to move in. So when I put on that economic development hat and I think about the things that we need in our cities, we need to continue to get creative and do innovative things. We need to create a stable regulatory environment, but we also need the help of our friends in the federal government. We need to see greater allocation of tax credits to cities that need them, but before we even get there, we need to see greater investment in tax credits from the federal government to facilitate the supply of housing, to help us bridge that 4 million unit gap. We also need, and as Paige mentioned, I say this all the time, I'm the first Latino mayor of a majority Latino city in Pennsylvania. We say Latinos are not a monolith, but cities aren't monoliths either. We have a lot of the same challenges. We need to address housing across our cities, but we need flexible funding because what you need to do in Scranton is very different from what you need to do in Oklahoma City. And as much as Philly and Allentown are look a lot alike, there's very different needs in our cities as well. So direct funding to cities that we can use in a flexible way is absolutely the way to go. So that's what I'm asking for as the mayor of Allentown, and looking forward to working with the next administration to heavily invest in Allentown and across the United States to make the American dream more affordable for our residents. So, muchísimas gracias. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Jones. So pleased to be in your district. Muchísimas gracias.
Well, welcome to the city of Philadelphia, city of brotherly love, and under the leadership of our mayor, sisterly effectiveness. I watched our mayor run for office, and she made a lot of commitments, a lot of promises. But as soon as she took office, she started fulfilling them. I want to tell you a little bit about the heart of what happened here. This is a building that had 300 apartment units in it. It came around the time when HUD was handing out money to do subsidized affordable housing in urban areas. And right out of a scene from The Sopranos, they took out the equity in this building, $32 million, and didn't put a dime back in reinvestment. And what they tried to do was make the city of Philadelphia close the building. Fire hazards, there were raccoons around, and these people who lived here, many of whom served as veterans, many of whom had mobility issues, all of whom were seniors. And this was like the United Nations. All races, creeds, and colors were right here. And their future was in question. The mayor was in between a rock and a hard place, and she jumped head first in and said, no, we're going to figure a way out of this. And through the partnership she was able to put together with PHA, with the city of Philadelphia, with a district council person named Jones, we were able to come up with a solution. And I want to say to you publicly, Mr. Mayor, when we stood here a month ago, I've served in 5 administrations. You, because you kept your promise of 30,000 units of affordable luxury housing, you gave me my best day of service. My best day. That is why I ran for office, and those people were appreciative. They were in here, and you know, we went on a tour before, and their future wasn't sure. We did a tour, and there was crime tape up at one of the units, and we had discovered that a woman had been in there dead for 3 days. People, maintenance, people not checking on her, but the good news in the end of this story is that we're doing better thanks to your commitment. I'm encouraged about the coalition you've pulled together, and what I've learned from you, and I'm taking back to City Council, is that there's no R, no D in housing, and that we have to stick together to deal with those. And I like that. No R, no D in housing. So thank you, and make sure she gets you a cheesesteak. Don't let her leave. Don't let her put you on the bus without giving you a cheesesteak. So that will officially initiate you as a Philadelphian. Thank you.
Thank you all so very much. We want to make our mayors, I'm going to ask our mayors, and Tom, can we all sort of just stand here? We want to start by taking any questions that you have regarding anything that we mentioned. Again, President Ginther is here to speak on behalf of the mayors at the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Tom is our leader, but any questions? So if there are any arena or Philadelphia-based questions, we're going to do a scrum after this. But right now, this is everything housing. Yes, sir. Well, we want to make sure that we respond to you, but right now we want to address all housing specific questions, and I'm gonna come and do a scrum, and we'll come, but we've got, right now, it's housing. Yes, sir. Yes. Excellent question. One, that is the power, and while we have a need for that intergovernmental cooperation, you heard President Ginther talk about what we've seen, and this has been decades and decades. We need more of an investment into housing, community development block grant dollars. Those are highly regarded and sought after dollars that go directly to cities for development. The LIHTC tax credits that you heard us mention from the state, philanthropic partnership. What we're going to announce here in Philadelphia, specifically in the first quarter of 25, again, intergovernmental, federal, state, local, private sector. I want to be very clear. Government cannot shoulder this and foot this alone, along with the building trades, workforce development. Mr. President, you want to add?
Yeah, this is why this is the most important issue that we as a conference are going to focus on in the first 100 days of the new administration and the new Congress. We need to dramatically increase funding for HUD, but we need to also dramatically increase the amount of funding for LIHTC. CDBG, had it just increased with the rate of inflation over the years, it'd be 4 times what it is today. Those are game changers. But the other critical piece we're asking for, and many of the mayors spoke to this, is money to help in the way of innovation and disruption in getting more housing units at every price point, by the way. We have a supply crisis in America. We're short 4 million units. That is increasing homelessness, it's increasing the lack of affordability, and it's squeezing families and seniors like never before. So we need to invest directly into cities to help us bring more units online in our communities across the country. And as you've heard, there are a variety of different issues. These are different cities facing different challenges. The bottom line is we need more units at every price point. Go back to Econ 101. And if your supply is flat and your demand continues to grow, you see why we're in the crisis we're in. And all we're saying is we know we can do this. You look at the rescue plan, bipartisan infrastructure law, CHIPS and Science Act, Safer Communities Act. Bipartisanship can still happen in Washington. And the U.S. Conference of Mayors is demanding that we act on housing. Well, and I think what mayors are feeling is, just like Mayor Parker and the council had to step up to make this happen, we're oftentimes left holding the bag on the local level, coming up with creative and innovative P3s, which is fine. But the only way we're going to deal with this 4 million unit shortage is if the federal government steps up and invests in housing as they do other types of infrastructure in our communities across the country. If you want things to get done, work with a mayor. A mayor will get it done.
That's why he's our president. Okay, yeah, guess why he's our president. And another thing that we love about your question is you see all of the cities that are represented here today. You just referenced one of our partners in New Jersey, Atlantic City, right? This is a nation-wide challenge, and it definitely deserves a federal approach. But I have to affirm, Mayor Cognati, when you said you're driving and someone from another party, here you are, you know, proud supporter of Vice President Kamala Harris in her efforts, but someone drives supporting another candidate, but when he talks to you, he expects you to get it done. And housing, Council Member Jones, there are no Ds or Rs in housing. Where are you? Is it? Councilmember Jones, it's it. You just gave it to us. It's the issue. We were going over a plan for 3 million units, and then I'm listening to President Ginther talk about, 4 million units. So we have work to do, and we have to be unified in our advocacy to support housing. Yes. Yes, sir. Thank Thank you.
He came through.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, now, we're gonna come down, or you want us to do it from here? Okay, that's fine. Sure. So one, let me start by saying I am super proud that our Secretary of State, Al Schmidt, is no Johnny-come-lately to assuring fair elections here, okay, done decently and in order and in accordance with the law. With that being said, he's in close communication and contact with all of our city commissioner units, they're called city commissioners here in the city of Philadelphia, working in a bipartisan way to ensure that there is transparency and, quite frankly, fairness. Their only job is to ensure that all Philadelphians have the ability to employ the use of the most fundamental right that is the bedrock of our democracy, and that is their right to vote. So I would argue, I've heard, a lot of conspiracy theories, where the foundation is already being laid about, what's not happening that's right. Philadelphia has done and will continue to do things decently and in order and in a very transparent way. And I want to commend in particular our city commissioners, led by our chairman, Commissioner Omar Sabir, Commissioners Lisa Dealey, and Seth Bluestein, Allentown and Scranton.
Sure. So we were working closely. Allentown's the county seat of Lehigh County, and work closely with our county commissioners. We've connected with the Federal Bureau of Investigation and Homeland Security to ensure election security along with our county. But one of the great things that we did is our Allentown Police Command team came down to a tabletop exercise here in Philadelphia and got some training, making sure that all of our officers understand the importance of ensuring those safe and secure elections, and that every site in the city of Allentown can count on safety from the Allentown Police Department. I'll hand it off the page.
Yeah, a feature of Scranton on Election Day is a lot of people at the polls handing out nail files and postcards and all those things. So we are no stranger to there being a little bit of a party at every polling location in Lackawanna County, but it has traditionally gone very smoothly. We never went away from paper ballots in Lackawanna County. And that was something that the Election Bureau, who has had very consistent staffing for decades, a choice that they made against some trends, but something that has in some ways insulated us from some of the lawsuits and problems that we've seen in other places. So we feel really good in Lackawanna County. We feel good all around the state, though. Secretary Schmidt is of a different party than Governor Shapiro. That is important to note, right? That was a very smart appointment by Governor Shapiro. He picked the right person to do the job, who happened to be somebody with a different letter at the end of his name. So this election is not politicized in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It's going to go smooth. Of course, there will be, lawsuits and things like that. I think that period of November 6th through December 17th, you'll see a lot in the news about lawsuits and what have you. But the elections in Pennsylvania are secure, and people have a great time at the polls in Pennsylvania. It's always a delight to see democracy in action.
Not just a different letter at the end of his name, but experience in the only city of the first class in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and the largest, right here in the city of Philadelphia. So safe, secure, and fair elections taking place across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and of course right here in our birthplace of democracy in the Keystone State. But thank you for that question. Yes, sir. One, let me start by saying I am super excited about the fact that Councilmember Squilla, on behalf of Council President Kenyatta Johnson, has formally introduced the legislative package that will enable us to make a reality the historic $1.3 billion investment in a Sixers arena that will first and foremost, Councilmember Jones, ensure that our Philadelphia 76ers are staying home. That's the first thing it does, and I am excited about that. I'm also excited about the fact that we are talking about this investment, a $1.3 billion economic investment in the city of Philadelphia that will require no city funds. That is unprecedented when it comes to the building of local sports facilities, and I want to thank the Sixers for their partnership. I also want to affirm this for the record. So $1.3 billion investment with no taxpayer funds included, along with a $50 million community benefits agreement. And that will ensure that it benefits neighborhoods and communities, of course, those that are directly surrounding the arena. And now I'm thinking about Chinatown. I'm thinking about literally the revival and everything that's beyond the basketball that will help us bring life back to East Market Street, from City Hall actually down to the river. So I'm excited about that. Also, hundreds of millions of dollars in new tax revenues for both the city of Philadelphia and the school district. We needed that infusion of revenue. You hear us talking about a major issue here on the day. When cities get increase in revenues, then we can make investments in needed, sort of assets for the city of Philadelphia, and that is one of the issues is to address our housing crisis. Next, I want to say this, and this becomes extremely important. The Special Services District, Councilmember Jones, that we worked very, very hard on with Councilmember Mark Squilla, and he's been a fierce advocate for both Chinatown, Wash West, and the entire community that is immediately and directly impacted by the building of a new arena. $14.1 million built into the CBA for that immediate area. He also introduced something that was extremely important, and that was the Chinatown zoning overlay. And that is intended to protect small businesses and include affordable housing, implement use controls, and a third bill that we won't move on now, but we will work on in the very near future, and that is for tax increment financing, and we will support a number of efforts there. So as the mayor of the city of Philadelphia, I want to say this publicly to Council President Kenyatta Johnson, Councilmember Mark Squilla, Councilmember Jones, whose district we're in today, and all members of City Council. This is what the city of Philadelphia wants to see us do. They want us to be solutions-oriented and deliver for the city of Philadelphia. And this is a pro-growth strategy that will be beyond the basketball as it relates to the positive externalities and impact on the city of Philadelphia. And again, the city of Philadelphia as a whole. Think about extended day, extended year. That's free before and after school supports for academic enrichment programs, for students attending both our traditional public and our charter schools. I want you to think about the men, women, and students who will be training through our city college for municipal employment, for employment opportunities immediately available in our city and potentially with the Sixers. The training and partnerships with the Philadelphia along with all of our ethnic chambers of commerce. In addition to that, I'm super proud of the pipeline that we will build with our HBCUs, namely Cheney University and Lincoln University, not in Philadelphia proper, but they educate a significant number of Philadelphia-based students. This is what I call doing our best to get things done. Government can't do it alone. We need the private sector to help it thrive. I know that there are a lot of people who are not excited about this. Our job is to make sure that we deliver for all of the impacted communities. So this is not an either or. This is not pro-Sixers and anti-anyone else. This is both. And we can continue to have the best Chinatown in the nation while ensuring that we work as hard as we can to enjoy this $1.3 billion private sector investment in the city of Philadelphia that extends way beyond the basketball. And one of my colleagues who's here, I hate to bring you into this mess, Mayor Holt, but I want you to talk about what you think about this opportunity.
Yeah, no, I actually, you'd have no reason to know this, but on the stage today is probably the only current mayor who has negotiated a 30-year lease agreement with an NBA team and a new arena. So last December in Oklahoma City, our voters by a 71% margin approved a new $1 billion arena, which secured a 30-year commitment from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, I recognize there's lots of local details that people can cuss and discuss over, but your mayor's priorities are absolutely in the right place because these teams bring economic development, they bring identity. I mean, think of Philly without the Sixers, right? I mean, and I'm not from here, but I get that, how important that is. And I think there's at least three important elements to this that are worth noting from my external perspective, but as somebody who has dealt with this pretty hands-on for the last few years. The first is the team staying in Philadelphia. Now, we have different situations, right? I'm the 42nd largest market. I'm the 20th largest city, but I'm the 42nd largest market, and this is 6th largest market. Like, I get that the team may not be moving to Las Vegas, but it might move to Camden. And she probably would rather I say that than her, right? But that's the business reality when you get into this. And so the fact that this deal keeps the team in Philadelphia is critical. It's also really exciting. I think that the Sixers are one of the few teams that don't currently play in the urban core, in Center City. I know the lingo around here, not downtown, Center City. Our new arena is going into downtown Oklahoma City. And that is there's obviously maybe some pain that's going to go through that process, but nonetheless, at the end of that, people are going to love that urban environment and the economic development that it's going to bring to Center City, Philadelphia. And the last piece is another fundamental difference between our market sizes. Like, we're having to fund our arena because that team, there is no future in Oklahoma City if we were to expect the private sector to pay for the arena. They would go somewhere else because there's billion-dollar arenas already in cities without an NBA team. But here in Philadelphia, the fact that you have the leverage, basically because of your size, to broker a deal that is privately funding. That $1 billion in Oklahoma City is coming from our taxpayers, and that's the only deal that we could have because of our size. Here, your mayor has secured a deal where you're going to have a privately funded arena in excess of $1 billion. I mean, that's, from an Oklahoma City perspective, obviously, we'd love to have that deal. We understand the difference in our market size is the reason why we don't. But man, don't look past that. That's an amazing private sector commitment from the ownership group. And I get it. There's neighborhood concerns. There's concerns with the existing arena's ownership. Some of these people are my friends. We both like Comcast. But this is really exciting, and it shows, as the mayor said, a solutions-oriented approach from this administration that I think I hope that you get what you need, and I think the people of Philadelphia will ultimately be the winners here. So thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Mayor. It's always nice to get another perspective, outside, other mayors paying attention to activity taking place here in Philadelphia. And so I'm pleased and proud that the process has gotten started. I love the fact that you go through a public hearing process, and for those who know me, I spent time as a member of the City Council of Philadelphia, as a district council member. We're going to hear from the people, again, who are impacted, and we will have people who are for, and there will be people who are against, but the workforce development, the skilled labor, I'm thinking about the men and women who will have the long-term jobs, who will work in that arena. I'm thinking about SCIU. I'm thinking about the apprenticeship programs where men and women from across the city will get an opportunity to participate. I'm thinking about the mobile concessions. What is that? You know how we go into an arena and you have concessionaires, different brands that are there? Well, how about kiosks that are like mobile concessions where different business owners from neighborhoods across the city will get an opportunity to sell a product? Councilmember Jones, and we have built in sort of the bonding, the helping them to pay for insurance, so all of the liability that would have been a barrier to entry, and those small businesses getting access to an opportunity included in what we have negotiated, along with an EOP that is unheard of, and that doesn't even include the pilot. Again, that's both city and the school district. So we are excited about it and proud about it. I'm going to continue to work to organize and host our town meetings. I'll be coming to a neighborhood near you soon, Philadelphia, to share with you the details that are in the agreement. And this is really about us being one Philly, a united city, and we're going to make sure we get it done. Someone else, I think it was one more back here. Oh, I love it. Thank you all so much for your time. Have a good day. Oh, sure. Should we put this down here for you? Tighten up here.